And I know, I remember, what we need is doers. And our retort is, no, we need thinkers. But the thinkers still have to do things, don't they, John?
That's absolutely right. I, Joe, am a bit disillusioned.
Mm-hmm.
Survivor Bay was created for just that purpose, as an internet backup for the people in the Patriot movement and Americans in general to be able to network under a private server securely without having to rely on the internet. This was something that could be used from coast to coast without interruption in times of civil disturbance, whatever. And in doing so, we have to put in hard lines. Now, those hard lines cost money, $40 a month. Per line, you put in 10 lines per month, that's $400 plus installation fee. You're looking at about $4,000 just off the get-go for 10 hard lines of service. Trust me, I would like to make Survivor Bay available to everybody, but that's not going to be possible because of the emergency mode. Plus, two things, Joe. We made it as cheap as we possibly could, $6.99 for a month. Almost anybody can afford that. I mean, if you can't afford $6.99 a month, you might as well shut your internet off because you're going to need that money to buy food here shortly. $6.99 a month is helping us cover expenses because we want to expand. We want to make this thing much, much bigger. My ultimate personal goal is to buy an independent ISP so that Survivor Bay will be its own internet service. And I'm just a bit disappointed that the Patriot movement...
Fake-triot movement. Get it right.
Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. The fake-triot movement is not getting behind this.
Well, it comes down to this, John. It comes down to this. Sacrifice. When the Founding Fathers decided that it was time to break away from the British Empire, they didn't do it saying, well, man, I got kids at home. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. They're going to need me. Or, man, this is going to hit me in the wallet. I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle that. To give you an example of just how much the Founding Fathers were into this, think about James Monroe. James Monroe, President of the United States, was succeeded by John Quincy Adams. Now, James Monroe was many things. He was a Secretary of War. He was the President, obviously. He was also ambassador to Britain. And he held many things. He negotiated the Louisiana Purchase with John Jay. All of those he did on his own dime. The government didn't pay him for it. As a matter of fact, he had to go before Congress and beg them to help reimburse some of his bills, because when he left the office of president, he was $75,000 in debt from having state visits, from all of his exploits going overseas, negotiating peace treaties, doing all that kind of stuff. He did it on his own dime. And eventually what happened was the government gave him $30,000 towards his expenses, and then he had to sell his land, his estate at Oak Hill, for $25,000 to who? The federal government, to also help that satisfy that debt, and then the remaining debt he saddled his kids with. And his kids had to go before Congress and say, "Hey, come on, look what my father did." This is all because he was doing something noble. He was doing something right, and he was willing to sacrifice everything he had for this country, for the pursuit of freedom and liberty. And look where we are now today. Now today, people can't sacrifice a number 3 large with a Coke to do something that everybody asks about. Well, what do I do? What do I do if the internet goes down? What do I do if the kill switch is thrown? How are we going to communicate? How are we going to do things? Well, we need to assume ownership of that. And it takes people who are proactive to do that. And it takes sacrifice. And I understand that $6.99 a month may not seem to be a lot to some people. It's a lot to me. It's a lot to me. But I'm paying $6.99 a month because I want to have that insurance and that hedge against the internet going down. I want to still be able to network with people and to pass data and to get news from other parts of the country or even the world for that matter. But it takes sacrifice. So guess what? That number 7 spicy chicken combo at Wendy's, sorry, Charlie, because this woman...
That's what I was going to say. Just skip the Big Mac meal and spend that $6.99 for somewhere else here on Survivor Bay. Get that Survivor Bay membership. You'll be glad you did. Trust me.
So really, it comes down to that, and that's only one thing, John. You know, I see it. I see it all the time on YouTube. And I'll be honest with you, folks. I don't watch YouTube much anymore, and not because of the fact that there isn't good information to be gleaned from it. No, not at all. But what happens is you just get so aggravated and so tired of people who claim to be in pursuit of the truth. But they're not. You can tell they're not. That's not the agenda. That's not what their personal agenda is. It's interesting to know when you boil it all down to it. And John, I think we went over this. I actually kind of figured it out in my head about how many people are serious out there about this. And we came up with what, 1/10%?
Yeah, 1 in 1,000.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's sad, because if that's the case, then this country's doomed. It is doomed.
Out of all those people that are actually serious, how many of those people are actually proactive?
Right. And proactive, I don't mean going to an Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth rally and say, hey, all right. I mean proactive. I mean getting up there on the podium and really, really railing it and saying something and putting yourself out there, doing things that promote this. You know, who's writing the Supreme Court right now about the decision with the Kentucky Supreme Court? Anyone? I'm crafting a letter. I'm going to fire it off. Will it make a difference? Probably not. But I'm going to do it.
I don't think you can get moved up on that red list, Joe. Just keep them fire away.
That's all right. Fuck the red list. Pardon me. Damn. Daggum internet radio.
Well, that's the attitude people got to get. You're dead already, folks. You just are too stupid to know it.
Now, on Sunday's show, John, I talked about how Google is doing some interesting things, asking people to give their cell phone numbers now to verify their account, whether it be YouTube or anything else. Isn't that interesting, guys? Isn't that interesting that YouTube wants your cell phone number?
Oh, yeah.
And, first of all, what happened with my wife, and I'll recap the story, is she doesn't have a cell phone. So how in the heck does she give a cell phone? So what does she do? She X's out of it. Why? Because, guess what? She doesn't have one. So what do? They disable her account because of community violation. So here she is. She's got 11 videos on a YouTube channel. But what she does do is she comments quite often on YouTube videos. And a lot of times she's very vocal about issues, especially anything that has to do with, tyranny and oppression. So what happens? Folks like you and me, who do have a cell phone, who are unsuspecting of everything, say, no problem, Google. I'll go do that. And they put in your cell phone. Now we got your cell phone. So now, Joe Schmuckatelli here goes and he puts a comment on a video. And that comment just happens to get flagged. By who? Well, YouTube, Facebook, all that's nothing more than a data mining operation for whatever three-letter agency wants to use it. That's really all it is. So what do? They say, take a look at this. Well, we'll put them on the red list. That's number one. Then they can see, I got a cell phone number. So let's see what he's doing right now. They can see where you're at. Oh, Joe Schmuckatelli's at the Tea Party rally. Isn't that right? Let's take a look. Let's activate his microphone and see what he's saying. And next thing you know, you got jackboot thugs knocking down your door because you're tampering with evidence. The hell with the Fourth Amendment. I'm telling you, this is all coming together. It's all coming together, and it's not going to be long before we're in serious trouble.
Joe, I gave him my cell phone number, 800 eat crap. It took it.
Well, I think what really PO'd Google is that she had changed the password to F you Google right before it got taken away. So perhaps perhaps that could have been the straw that broke the camel's back. I don't know. But what I'm telling you is that there's no more time to sit on your tuchus. Period, end of story. It's time to make sacrifices. And yes, AK Survivor in the chat room, I most certainly can use Bob or Mark Schmuckatelli next time. Oh, John, your mic is making a ton of noise, by the way. Every time you move, it's... Okay, so now that we know that they're setting this up, they're trying to discredit the Christian right now, and pretty soon that will be vilified. That'll be, you will all be villains. Ha, 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 ha. All I'm telling you is that Muslims are villains. Christians are villains. Jews are villains. And it's a broad brush that's being painted here. Whether you're a heretic, whether you're a terrorist, whether you're a witch, it doesn't matter. It's the same hunt. It doesn't matter what time period you lived in. It's the same thing. It's all happening again. It all comes full circle. And here we are. So, let's talk about this Kentucky Supreme Court case and how they stripped away your Fourth Amendment rights. So on May 16th, the Supreme Court took a slice out of the civil rights of American citizens in Kentucky versus King. It's always important to monitor the Supreme Court, much like in the case of Connick versus Thompson, when the court loosened the limits on the right to a fair trial. In Kentucky versus King, the court loosened the limits the Fourth Amendment placed upon police. This is an article written by David J. Shitakis, who just happens to be licensed to practice law in Illinois and Florida. He's a former prosecutor and writes on the Constitution and legal issues. Among the most important distinctions that have kept the United States from becoming a police state has been the Fourth Amendment's requirement that police are required to obtain a warrant from a judge prior to conducting a search of a person, his belongings, or his home. The Fourth Amendment reads, for anybody that doesn't know, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Those are the words. The amendment was added to the